Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Mr. Pad Paramahansa Bhagavadgitacharya Ashtotar Tadashi Shrimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavadgitacharya Ashtotar Tadashi Shrimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the sum of the devotees. All glory to the sum of the devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Now I think I mentioned that we're going to do text 30 again. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this fourth day of March 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 3, Karma Yoga. And this is text 30 on page 166. Prabhu, do me a favor. Just double check and make sure that this one is on all the way. Thanks. 166 on the bottom, text 30. Okay. Okay? Thank you. Maisarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatadvaraha Maisarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatadvaraha Mahisarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatadvaraha Maisarvani karmani Sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamho bhutva yudjasva bhagavadgita Maisarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamho bhutva yudjasva bhagavadgita. You want to try it, Jen? No? Okay. You don't want to try it. All right. All right, I'll do the synonyms and you can just read along. Mahi, unto me, sarvani, all sorts of, karmani, activities, sanyasya, giving up completely, adhyatma, with full knowledge of the self, chetasa, by consciousness, nirashi, without desire for profit, nirmamaha, without ownership, bhutva, so being, yudjasva, fight, bhagavadgita, without being lethargic. Translation. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Purport. This verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord said one has to become fully conscious to discharge duties as if in military discipline. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Arjuna was therefore ordered by Sri Krishna to fight as if the Lord were his military commander. One has to sacrifice everything for the goodwill of the Supreme Lord, and at the same time discharge prescribed duties without claiming proprietorship. Arjuna did not have to consider the order of the Lord, he had only to execute his order. The Supreme Lord is the soul of all souls. Therefore, one who depends solely and wholly on the Supreme Soul without personal consideration, or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious, is called Adhyatma Chetas. Nirashi means that one has to act on the order of the master but should not expect fruitive results. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. That is the real purport of Mayi, or unto me. And when one acts in such Krishna consciousness, certainly he does not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called nirmama, or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so-called kinsmen in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. In this way one may become vigata dvara, or without feverish mentality or lethargy. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness as described above. That will lead one to the path of liberation. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this seems pretty impossible. I mean, we're working in this world, and we have to get a salary, we have to pay the rent, we have to buy food, we have to pay the gas, and so many things that have to go on. How are we going to sannyas yadmanta chetasya and to give Krishna the results of all the activities? Then what about us? And here it says nirashir means without any desire for profit. Well, then why should we work? I mean, isn't that what motivates people to work? Because they'll get some profit from it, either grow just enough or some huge percentage and become very wealthy, whatever.
Nirmama? Really? Nothing is mine? I mean, what about the clothes on her back at least? You know? I want to speak of the car and, you know, whatever we need, and who knows? So many things we build up in a whole lifetime of. And then on top of all of that, we're supposed to act according to Krishna's desire without any feverish mentality, without any like doubts or any kind of reluctance, and it seems like a pretty tall order. But, as Prabhupada says, this verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. So what is that purpose of the Bhagavad Gita? The idea is that we are so conditioned, meaning that we're so far away from our actual nature, that we have no idea, that it just seems that our real nature is completely alien to us. Meaning, the ideal in Krishna consciousness is stated at the beginning of the book called the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Srila Prabhupada gave us as the nectar of devotion. And it's defined, this is the perfection of life, according to Rupa Goswami. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhanabham anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. And what he says there is that this process of devotional service that he's now going to describe in great detail, very systematically. The ideal, he's giving you the ideal at first. Just like if you go to school, suppose, I remember when I was a junior and it applied to school, at various colleges. Said, oh, I'd like to go to Harvard, you know. And I had some good grades, so I applied to Harvard, I applied to Columbia, and the University of Chicago, you know, which is a pretty good school. So the whole idea is that you have, you know, ideas, oh, you know, I'll get some nice degree, and I'll be successful in life, and, you know, I forget what I was aspiring for at the time, professorship or something. So you have some plan, and you know that just as it's already been a struggle, you know, to get good grades here and there, take the tests, and, you know, that there's going to be a path, just like we have called Bhakti Marga, a path of discipline, meaning that you'll have to work hard, you'll have to give up some things that you may like to do, and take on other things that are really going to be hard, but at the end, there'll be some success, some fruit there. There's a degree and then a hope for a successful and happy life. So there's always a plan. There's some kind of a goal that you're working toward. So until and unless we come in touch with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the devotees, the whole idea of a spiritual goal and so forth may seem like really theoretical. You know, we have so many things to do and there's so many things going on. It's a nice philosophy and everything, but let me do something practical. But the fortunate few, and Krishna makes it very clear at the beginning of the 4th chapter, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yadadi siddhaye. Out of thousands and, let's say honestly, millions and millions of human beings, Manushyanam means human beings, only a few even try for actual perfection. In other words, they may try for something that looks like perfection, but what perfection means in the Vedic standard, it has to be eternal. The benefit is forever, not just for a few years when you're in this body. So the first axiom of Vedic wisdom is that you're not the body, you're an eternal soul. And your calculation of what's good and what's bad has to be on that basis, not just on what the basis of your relative bodily existence. Once you kind of accept that, the whole calculation changes. So when we talk about the eternal benefit of the soul, we have to broaden our scope of what's good and what's bad and what the discipline is. So in the Vedic wisdom, in the Bhagavad Gita teachings, the basic principle, as spoken of here in this 3rd chapter, we're still near the beginning of the book, is you want to break out of the prison house that you're in. We're all in a prison. It's called Durga. You know, Durga is the name of the material energy, but the name Durga stresses the role. Durga literally means a prison. The role, you can't go. That's literally what the name Durga means. Go means to go, Durga means cannot or difficult. You can't leave without some help from above. And it's a very, very sophisticated prison because we don't even know we're in prison. And most of the people think, well, I have my freedom, you know. But actually we're in this prison, and the punishment is birth, old age, disease, and death. And in between those, that's just the given that everyone recognizes. But then there's the others that we also understand, but they're categorized as miseries or difficulties that arise from your own body and mind. Just like I've developed some kind of condition in my arm, you know. I mean, I'm getting older. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but you said you hit your arm and it took a while to heal too, in a certain, right, elbow? Couple of weeks. So this has been going on since December. And, you know, that's why I can't play the whompers anymore. When I do that, then I have this big ache in my arm, so I can just play the cartels, you know, make the gong a little bit, you know. And sometimes it feels like it's getting better, and then suddenly it just hurts again, you know. So it's not the end of the world, but I realize, oh, this is, the body is mortal, and you have this foot of yours, you know. And we're reminded. You get older, and things don't heal as well, and conditions come, and this and that. So that's, you don't want that. So that's called an adhyatmic misery, right? And then you have adibhautic miseries. When this one comes up, I always remember this play I read when I was a kid by John Paul Sartre. I think it was called No Exit. You know. And did you ever read that? Yeah, right. Like that. So No Exit. And there's one line in there that is stuck in my brain. I'll remember until the day I leave this body. Hopefully not after that. And that is that hell is other people. You know, what a depressing thought, you know. I mean, for devotees, you want to be with devotees, you know, association is nectar, right? But when you're with people who are, you know, your enemies that don't like you or ignore you, or anyway, this guy, the hell is other people. So, but adibhautic means other living beings causing you trouble. It can be insects, if you can find any anymore. I mean, the insects are attacking us by dying off. If they all die off, we're in trouble. Anyway, I won't get into that right now. But you know how it is. I mean, I remember when I first went to India, and oh my God, the mosquitoes in Mayapur are not the mosquitoes you find here in the United States. Huge, and they're very determined, you know, and especially in certain seasons. And it's rice paddies everywhere, so there's plenty of places to live. So there's mosquitoes, and then this and that, and then I was living, you know, in my apartment, and the guy was thin walls, you know, loud all night, you know, adibhautic miseries, you know, if it doesn't get really serious with a major attack, other living beings. And then comes the really huge one that happened all of a sudden that no one can do, adidaivic, the big hurricanes, the tornadoes, the cold weather we're having, you know, and they just had this tornado blow through Alabama, you know, the fires, you know, these are forces of nature, what they call acts of God. That, you know, if you have an insurance policy, if it's an act of God, they can pay. If it's, you know, they can prove it. So one of those three, you were either suffering from, you know, the adhyatmic you kind of carry with you, the tooth and egg, or threatening to be suffered from. That's another kind of misery, the fear, if you're being threatened, or there can be a danger. Oh, we'll pay some insurance. And then paying the insurance, that's another kind of misery because you can't afford it. So it's just one thing after another. And then and then you get old and you die, and then you start a whole new round. You say, okay, at least it's over now. No, it's not. Then you go through again. And so that round and round and round of birth, old age, disease, and death. Krishna says in the 13th chapter that he has a whole list of elements of knowledge. It's really instructive from 8 to 12, verses 8 through 12. And one of the ones is Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshana, Darshanam, which means to always be aware of the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease, as this is concomitant, you know, in this age. So if there's a prospect where you can live and be a full person and fully conscious and not have to deal with those things, it's worth investigating that. And that's what that's the first benefit that draws you in for any kind of process of self-realization, personal, impersonal, or anything. Even the Buddhists want that, right, to get free, but they think to just void out, and you know, but somehow or other to break free of birth. So, but here, Krishna consciousness, as defined by Rupa Goswami and reiterated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Shikshastika, is that, yes, liberation is fine, but we're not even going to strive for that. What we're looking for is beyond liberation. So, anya abhilashita shunyam, even the anya abhilashita, this word ashir is related to that in this verse. Not desiring anything in the realm of jnana karma. Jnana is knowledge of the Supreme, is the impersonal liberation. And karma is ordinary things that you want for your safety and pleasure in this world. So he says, anavritam, not covered, not polluted. Your motivation for serving Krishna, for chanting Hare Krishna, for following the process, should not be adulterated by any material desire, up to and including the desire for liberation, which really ultimately is a material desire. Desire to be free. Let me be free of all of this suffering. No. Well, that's what it's not. Don't cover it. What do you do? What is it supposed to be? Serving Krishna out of love, simply for his interest. For his interest. And not for our own. Now, the closest thing we have to that is a mother's love for the child. You know, a little baby especially who's completely helpless. Simply tuned in. Is the child comfortable? Is he happy? Is he sick or something? Let me take him to the doctor, you know. Is there some danger? You know. In other words, if the child is happy and healthy, then the mother's happy. Even though she may have so many other troubles. The selfless love. That's the ideal. Now, when that's directed to Krishna, we may think, well, what about me? You know? And the answer is, it comes back to the philosophy where Krishna says, Mamaya Bangsa Jiva Loka, that every living being, every single soul is part and parcel of me. Meaning that we're just like the hands and the legs. When the hand takes some nice sabji or chapati, and it feeds it into the mouth and it goes into the stomach and the body becomes enlivened, say there was a Ekadashi fast or something, and suddenly you have energy, the hand benefits because it's doing the service, you see? So the idea is that that every living being is part and parcel of Krishna. And when you direct your love to Krishna, then it comes back to you. And you feel a happiness that you cannot feel this by the senses. This is the experience. And it's shown by our great acharyas. Rupa Goswami showed. And we give the example because part of the process of devotional service is vairagya. Vairagya means dispassion. It doesn't exactly mean renunciation. Renunciation literally means to give something up. There's another word for that, not vairagya. Tyaga. Tyaga, just like we give up drugs. And you don't take any heroin, mescaline, or anything like that. You know. It's not necessary. And if you're nicely practicing Krishna consciousness, the wonderful thing is you lose the desire for it. It's not like, oh, I got to grit my teeth, you know. But if you're actually tasting Krishna consciousness, that becomes your drug, and there's no bad side effects to it. You're actually sublimating the desire for that and all other things, and so that's natural vairagya. Tyaga, literally, so we give that up. That's all. In drugs, it's tyaga as well as vairagya. But vairagya means even in the midst of something that ordinarily would be very attractive to you, you're not attracted anymore because all that attraction is gone to Krishna. And the great devotees have shown that same thing. So I'll give this verse. I think I gave last class, but it's a very nice one. There's these 6 Goswamis, and we have this beautiful song, 8 verses about them. And the 4th one describes especially 3 of the sannyas of the 6 Goswamis who were very, very wealthy and influential. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. Before they took sannyas, before they met Lord Chaitanya, Rupa and Sanatan were the left and right hand of the king, or the Nawab, the Muslim rule, in Bengal. Very wealthy and influential, you know. Now, because they were serving the Muslims, they felt they had lost their caste. They were born in Brahmin families, but they had that influence. So much. Rupa Goswami had a whole boatload of gold. Imagine what that'd be worth today. You know. And so when he cashed out, when he took sannyas, he sold everything, ended with his boatload of gold, gave a quarter of it to his relatives, quarter of it to the, I think 50% to the Vaishnavas and Brahmins, and kept a quarter of it for emergencies, which he used to get his brother out of jail who had been arrested, because the Nawab didn't want to give up his, his work. He was such an important figure in the government. So then what did they do? On the order of Lord Chaitanya, they went to Vrindavan and Goswami, and they took the beautiful story about Sanat Goswami, how he got out of jail by 8,000 pieces of gold. He paid the jailer so he would let him go, and then he started walking, and he had one servant with him, Ishan. Now Ishan was a very practical servant, and he knew that there might be some expenses, so he kept 8 pieces of gold just in case, which today would be about $10,000. And so he, he didn't tell Sanat Goswami. So they're walking, and they come to a part. They're going toward Vrindavan. And they come to a very rough terrain where and there was an inn there. There was kind of, you'd be like do they still have Howard Johnson's? Like a motel. And so Sanatana Goswami was going to, wanted to ask the hotel owner because they were there. They would know how to get across this difficult tract of land. So the hotel owner, he had an astrologer who was like reading the stars and everything, and he could tell that they had some gold with them, that the two visitors had some gold, 8 pieces of gold. He knew he could tell. So this innkeeper said, "Oh yes, come on in. Certainly I will help you." And Sanatana Goswami was saying, "Oh, that's really good," but he was very sharp because he was a diplomat. He'd been in the government. So why is he so eager to help me? What's the story? So. He asked, he said, Ishan, his name was Ishan, his helper, his aide. He said, "Do you have something of value with you?" "Yes, master. I have 7 pieces of gold." He told him a lie. He had 8. He just keep 1 just for emergency. So Sanatana got angry, and "Why are you keeping this death knell with us? Somebody could kill us for this gold. Give me it right away." So he took the 7 pieces, said, "And here, he gave it to the innkeeper." He said, "You take it. I don't want it, but just out of your goodwill, help us across the tract of land." And so the innkeeper said, "Oh, you're such a saintly person. I would have killed you for it. My astrologer told me you had 8 pieces of gold. But now that you're giving me here, you take it back." And he said, No, you take it. I don't want it. It's a death knell. And just out of your goodwill, you help us." So he did. He helped him get across, And when he got across, he told Ishan, "I think you have some balance of the gold, don't you?" He said, "Yes, master, I have 1 piece of gold." He said, "Take it and go back home." He fired him from his service. So now he's all alone. And he felt so free, He's wandering because he has nothing. Nobody's going to rob him, you know what I mean? And he's just free of all of his attachments and everything. So he goes on, and he comes to, somehow or other, he met a relative of his along the way, brother-in-law or something. And he said, "Oh, Sanatan," I think he called him Dabukas, his other name. He says, "You want a chair? Get a chair for Mataji. You okay?" "Okay." And he said, "Come on, relax, take a few days off, you look bedraggled and everything." He said, I'm not going to stay here overnight, he didn't want to get sucked back in. So he said, "At least take this nice shawl, chadar, to stay warm." So he accepted that because he needed something. And then off he went, and finally he went to Benares, Varanasi, because he heard Lord Chaitanya was there. And there, sure enough, he found Lord Chaitanya. But he didn't walk in, he just sat down on the doorstep. And by that time he'd grown a long beard and everything, So Lord Chaitanya could tell that he would come. So he told his aide Govinda, he said, "Go see if someone's at the door, if there's a Vaishnava there." And so his aide went there. I don't know, maybe it wasn't with Govinda, it was whoever was helping him. He said, "No, who was it? Chandrasekhar, right?" He says, there's no Vaishnava there at the door." He says, "Is there anyone at the door?" "Yes, there's some Muslim mendicant there, He said, "Invite him in," because he had the long beard, because the Vaishnava don't get to. So as soon as he saw Sanatan, he gave him a big hug, And, "Oh, you've come, finally." So that was very good. But then over the next day or two, Sanatan saw that Lord Chaitanya was looking at his chadar. It was very fancy, very expensive. And he realized, oh, this is not right for a sannyasi, for a to have this. So he went to the shore of the Ganges, which flows right there by Varanasi, and he found some poor mendicant who had just a torn quilt that he had sewn together. This is what he would. So he said, I'd like to trade this for you. You know, and Sanatan had the bearing of a learned Brahmin and everything. And so the guy said, why are you joking with me? You know, this is not right for you to do this. You can see I'm just a poor mendicant, you know, and you're obviously very sophisticated. He said, no, I'm not joking with you. Please take it, you know. And so sure enough, he traded it, and then he had his torn quilt, you know, and he was like happy and Lord Chaitanya with everything with it. So this is the level at which they were embracing the goddess of Vairagya, you know. So the song says, and Rupa did the same thing. He went to Vrindavan, and then what would they do in Vrindavan? They didn't even have a place. They would walk around, live under a tree. You know, it gets cold there in the winter time, you know, but they didn't have regular meals. Whoever gave them something, they would eat a little bit sometimes, and then sleeping maybe 1.5 hours, if that. In other words, even to the very necessities of life, they would give it up. What to speak of other things? So the song says, Nidrahada Vaharakadi Vijito, that they conquered over sleeping and eating and recreation like that. But the fourth verse gives a wonderful lesson about these three, especially. And Raghunath Das, his renunciation was even more extreme. I won't get into that. And he was like what you call a billionaire's son today. You know, they're very, very wealthy. And give it all up. So it says, Tyaktva turna mashesha mandala patishening sada tuchavat. So the first line says, Tyaktva, they gave up Turnam immediately. They didn't hesitate and said, well, really, maybe I can do it slowly, step by step. They said, no. They immediately gave it up. Everything. Everything. As fast as they could. Turnam, Asheshamana, endless wealth and influence. Asheshamana the Pati Shenim said that. Tuchavat, as completely insignificant, as not worthless. And what did they do? Bhutva Dina Ganeshiko. They went to Vrindavan and became the protectors and the benefactors of the most fallen members of society, namely us, by writing, by resurrecting the pastimes in Vrindavan, building the temples, when that was possible, and mostly writing these wonderful books like Bhakti Rasamana Sindhu, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Jiva Goswami wrote so many books for posterity. That's our heritage. And Kopina Kantashito, and as I described, taking, wearing the simplest type of garments you could possibly conceive and like that. So what was their state of mind, though? What was their experience? Prabhupada makes the point, if a very wealthy person suddenly loses the money, all of a sudden becomes poor, he can't take it. If you're born into simple circumstances, you're used to it, you eke out a living, that's my life. But if you've at one point you had the penthouses and the luxury and everything, and suddenly you lose it all, it's just too much. But they weren't in that mentality. Gopi bhavada samatabda lahadi kalloda magno mahur. Again and again they were diving into the nectar ocean of the gopis' love for Krishna, which is the most intense and highest ananda. So my point is that this verse, which is all about renunciation, really, Mai sarvani karmani, all of the fruits of your activity, giving to me. Sannyas literally means to give up. Adhyatma cetasa means with full consciousness of the self. That means the individual self and the supreme self, Krishna. Not having any aspiration or desire for material things, not being possessive of anything, and performing your duties in Krishna consciousness. Arjuna's duty in Krishna consciousness was basically to fight the war, which he was hesitating to do. Then this is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. It's the path to perfection, because the state of consciousness that develops from this is what you're looking for, the wealth, the treasure of love for Krishna, called prema dana. Prema pamato mahan. This is one of the phrases in a verse describing Lord Chaitanya's teachings in a nutshell. What does it say? It says, how does it start? Arajo Bhagavan Vajeshatanayas Tadama Vrindavanam Ramya Kacha Dupasana Bhadabadu Vargena Yakalpita Shrimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumato Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamadam Taktradanapara. This is a verse from a book called the Chaitanya Manjusha, which is all kinds of verses about Lord Chaitanya. And it describes his teachings in a nutshell. So the first is you have to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arajo Bhagavan. Then, well, what form of Bhagavan? Vrajeshatanyas, the son of the king of Braja, in other words, Krishna in Vrindavan. And we worship his abode as well, Vrindavan also. This is not the first time this has happened. Okay, Hare Krishna. Then how should we do it? Ramya, as in the same way that the gopis did. The gopis were completely selfless love. Vajavadu vagena yakalpita. What's the evidence for all this? You're claiming Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the ultimate evidence and guide for this teaching. And what's the goal of it all? Prema Pumato Mahan. That one phrase is what's usually quoted. Prema, love for Krishna. Puma is short for Pungsa, which means human being. Arta means goal. Mahan means great. The great goal, the ultimate goal of life is love for Krishna. It includes everything else. Liberation is a simple byproduct. Lord Chaitanya, this is what Lord Chaitanya taught, and I don't know any principles beyond this. I forget who wrote this Suptamra or something like this. So it's a lot. It's quite a journey from this verse to the ultimate teaching of Lord Chaitanya. But that's what Srila Prabhupada presented to us, and everything is consistent. So this aspiring for this state where you're actually, because the whole idea in this chapter is that you want to come to the point of akarma, meaning you're acting, you're doing things, but you're not getting any reaction to it. Karma produces a reaction. This is the definition. It's activity that produces a result. And Krishna defines karma at the beginning of the 8th chapter. He says, at the beginning of this chapter, the questions, Bhuta Bhavo Bhavakaro Visarga Karma Sangita. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruit of activities. In other words, good or bad. If you're a very kind person and you're very giving and you're a saintly person, fine. You're acting and everything. You're trying to feed people, educate people, and save the poor babies and whatever. Fine. But you're sure to get another body to reap the benefits of that, which will be a much better material life in your next life. But it keeps you in the prison house. You've gone from, isolation chamber, where you have privileges to walk around the yard, but you're still in the prison. You become from a C prisoner to an A prisoner. But we want to get out of the prison altogether. So the idea is that what kind of activity doesn't produce an action and puts you in the state of naishkarmya? Naishkarmya means you're acting, but there's no result, because all the results are being burned up by Krishna. Karmani nirdahati kinchita bhakti bhaja. That's how we should try to live. We have to keep body and soul together. We have to do things what we have to do. But if we do it in the spirit of devotion to Krishna, and we're actually giving as much of the fruit to Krishna practically as possible, then we're not digging ourselves another hole in this material prison house so that we keep living here, but actually we're getting out. And at the same time, developing our love for Krishna. The part of Krishna consciousness that's pure bhajan, chanting Hare Krishna, worshipping the deity, hearing the Shastra, observing the festivals, all of that. That's all meant to absorb our mind in Krishna, and also all the activities of our senses, so that natural love for Krishna is awakened. Now that natural love is dissipated all things of this world. But it's tragic, because everything in this world is changing and disappearing, and so that relationship cannot be sustained. And we're frustrated life after life after life. And from this human life, if we have no even Vedic culture and structure, then we're bound to perform vikarmic activities, vicious activities, and lose the human form of life, which is the greatest tragedy. So at least if we do some Krishna consciousness, we're assured of a human life and start where we left off. But why prolong the agony? You know, when you actually that's why it's the Bhagavatam even has descriptions of life in the womb, you know, hellish planets. In other words, try to knock some sense into us to really get serious about wanting to get out. I like to give the analogy. You've heard this before. Most of you have heard. I give so many classes, it's ridiculous. But behind us, you know, there's Durga. Now, when you have the pictures of Durga, the murtis of Durga, she has this trident sometimes, you know. And that trident, I think, is the threefold miseries that I mentioned, you know. So she's punishing us. He's pushing us from behind. Get going toward Krishna. But from before, but in front of us, Krishna is inviting us. He's attracting us. Here, come, join me in the rasa dance. You know, Prabhupada says that in the Isha Upanishad. You know, we should aspire to join Krishna's rasa dance. So we have from before, Krishna's inviting us, and from behind, Durga is pushing us. And we're so stubborn that we're denying. You know, we don't want to do it. You know, it's just like a drug addict. You know, he knows intelligence. He comes to, I know, I'm ruining my life, my family. I'm going to lose my job. You know, in the moments of sanity, I'm going to straighten myself. I'm getting clean. There's no question. You know, but then, you know, the spell comes over him. The environment. He hangs out with his old friends again with the microphone. The sound system in this building has been cursed. There is some kind of a witch in that closet. Maybe we should do a closet. I mean, how long have you been here? We've been having this problem forever. We got Papa Mana comes in here. We buy different We have 3 new microphones. It's impossible. Anyway, so I'm in my work. I'm actually reading the chapter in the 10th canto about the killing of Putana, and how, you know, this whole ceremony after Krishna killed Putana, Mother Yashoda performed, you know, warding off all different kinds of witches. You know how many kinds of witches there are? The Kotaras, the Jeshtas, the Yatudanis, you know, there's a whole list. Yeah, and anyway. So where was I? Anyway, the idea is that if we nicely practice Krishna consciousness, then we can become sane again. We can actually see things in their proper perspective and understand, you know, why it's necessary to really become clear and purified of every last material desire, because that material desire is going to bring us back again to this world. And I don't know about you, but it doesn't look very like it's going to be very favorable. I know the Kali Yuga has 427,000 more years, but it's hard to believe. It's hard to envision how it's going to go. It seems to be degrading so fast. Antarctica is melting. I mean, you realize what happens if that's like it's 200 feet. The ocean is going to come in 200 feet. Look it up. Google it. Anyway, so there it is. No, we're going to be back to Godhead. That's the whole idea. Like Atlantis. Yeah. So at least we'll be chanting Hare Krishna when the tsunami comes. Who is it? Janardhan. Okay. Sorry. You heard me. No, it's still working.
I know, but there's so much noise. Sorry. We'll just turn on the ceiling mic, and at least the broadcast people can hear you.
and Balaram arranged to show compassion to certain wives of the Brahmins who were performing sacrifices. It's the Brahmins who performed the sacrifice. These wives were great devotees of the Lord, and Krishna took this opportunity to bless them. He said, "My dear friends, please go to the house of the Brahmins nearby. They are now engaged in performing Vedic sacrifices known as the Angiras, for they desire elevation to the heavenly planets. All of you please go to them." Krishna warned his friends, "These Brahmins are not Vaishnavas. They can't even chant our names, Krishna and Balaram. They're very busy in chanting the Vedic hymns, although the purpose of the Vedic knowledge is to find me. But because they're not attracted by the names of Krishna and Balaram, you had better not ask them for anything in my name. Better ask for some charity in the name of Balaram." So there's a reason for that, because, as explained, charity is generally given to high-class Brahmins, but Krishna and Balaram did not appear in Brahmin families. Balaram was known as the son of Vasudeva, a Kshatriya, and Krishna was known in Vrindavan as the son of Nanda, who was a Vaishya. So neither belonged to the Brahmin community. Therefore, Krishna considered that the Brahmins engaged in performing sacrifices may not be induced to give charity to a Kshatriya and Vaishya, but at least, quote, "but at least if you utter the name of Balaram, they may prefer to give in charity to a Kshatriya rather than to me, because I'm only a Vaishya." That was his reason. Being thus ordered by Krishna, all the boys went to the Brahmins and began to ask for some charity. They approached them with folded hands and fell down on the ground to offer respect. "O earthly gods," the Brahmins are sometimes called that, "kindly hear us, who are ordered by Krishna and Balaram." Now you can see that immediately they disobey the order. They say Krishna and Balaram. They didn't just say Balaram. Because they want to glorify Krishna. "We hope you know them both very well, and we wish you all good fortune. Krishna and Balaram are tending cows nearby, and we have accompanied them. We have come to ask you for some food from you. You're all Brahmins and knowers of religious principles, and if you think you should give us charity, then give us some food, and we'll all shall eat along with Krishna and Balaram. You're the most respectable Brahmins within the human society, and you're expected to know all the principles of religious procedure." Although the boys were village boys and were not expected to be learned in all the Vedic principles of religious ritual, they hinted that because of their association with Krishna and Balaram, they knew all those principles. By addressing the Brahmins as knowers of all religious principles, the boys expressed the point of view that when the Supreme Lord Krishna and Balaram were asking for food, the Brahmins should immediately deliver some without hesitation, because, as stated in the Gita, one should perform yajna sacrifices only for the satisfaction of Vishnu. The boys continued, "Vishnu, as Krishna and Balaram, is standing waiting, and you should immediately deliver whatever food you have in your stock." Close quote. The boys also explained to the Brahmins when food is to be accepted, what is not to be accepted. Generally, the Vaishnavas, or pure devotees of the Lord, don't take part in ordinary sacrificial performances, but they know very well the ceremonials like Diksha, Pasha Samskara, and Sautramani. One is permitted to take food after the procedure of Diksha and before the animal sacrificial ceremony and the Sautramani, or a ceremony in which liquors are also offered. The boys said, "We can take your food at the present stage of your ceremony, but now it will be not prohibited, so you can deliver us the food." So we'll begin there tomorrow, but I wanted to leave a little bit of time where I can share with you a poem I wrote. So, this describes Krishna entering the forest of Vrindavan and playing a little bit with his friends and the blessings he gets from that. So it says, with lovely peacock plume upon his head and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's wood with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day with coward friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way with fine impressions of his lotus feet. And then as soon as they get outside the village, they start running. They say, "Let's go," said Krishna, "don't delay at all." And he and Balaram began to run ahead of all their coward friends who called, "O Krishna Rama, let us join the fun." And off they ran to Braja's forest haunts, to play in every bower, grove, and sward. The boys would tease their friend with playful taunts, forgetting his position as the Lord. Sri Krishna is inviting us as well to join him in his pastimes, which enthrall the wise he, Krishna, when they hear him tell, "Let's go, my friends, do not delay at all." And so now they're out in the forest, and they're enjoying special pastime. For Krishna and his multitude of friends. No, we did that one. Yes. For Krishna and his multitude of friends, a festival of joy each day would bring. A special thrill in Braj's forest glens was riding with him high upon a swing. O Ujjvala, Sri Dama, Badrusain, just see Vrindavan's bountiful delights, the peacock's dance, the songbird's sweet refrain, the lakes and hills and other scenic sights. All these make this the best place on the earth for us to play all day and herd the cows. That's Krishna in a mood of sportive mirth, enthused his friends while swinging from the boughs. And we have time for one more. Now all of these different poems, they have paintings attached to it. I don't know if you visualize Krishna and Balaram running across the famous painting running next to the Yamuna. And this last one is when they're swinging from the boughs. And now you have Govinda sitting on a rock, and he's got the deer, and he's got the cow, and he's got a little dove on his hand, and there's this idyllic scene. And then the sweetness of Sri Krishna's form beguiles, still sweeter is his face like autumn moon, but sweeter than the sweetest is his smile, whose luscious beauty makes the gopi swoon. Govinda's beauty captivates the doves, the swans, the deer, the cows, and every tree. Indeed, in Braja, every creature loves Sri Krishna and is drowned in ecstasy. This all-enchanting land is paradise, our home where we may dwell eternally. Most welcome there are those who pay the price to learn to love Sri Krishna perfectly. All glory to